Hello everyone, and welcome to the first of many series on all things tech, all things business with Eco Kenya. Today's guests are Sammy Mutai from Eco Kenya. He's the head of customer experience. And from South Africa, we're joined by Walter Kotze, who is the commercial lead for Hi Guru. So I'll start with Sammy. What about you can we not find on search engines online?
Thanks, Juliana. I think one of the things that you might not be able to get is my TikTok account. So that's one of the things that you will definitely not find. I'm aspiring to register an account there, but I'll get there slowly.
Fantastic.
Thank
And
you.
Walter, what can we not find about you on search engines?
Well, yeah, I also don't have a TikTok account. Other than that, I'm pretty available. I don't block any of my accounts. I've got nothing to hide there. So you're going to look long and hard to not find anything about me. Not that there is much to find, but who I am is pretty much there on the LinkedIn profiles and Facebook and so on. Yeah, my experience is through tech and through hospitality, and I suppose specifically customer experience is one of my specialties in that case. But on socials and so on, I'm pretty available, so please connect.
Fantastic. Thank you. We'll start with the first question. You mentioned your experience with customer service. How do you think customers have changed over the years, specifically around their expectations on customer experience? We'll start with Walter.
So I think in more recent years, people have definitely moved into the digitization, and convenience has become a massive factor in customer experience. So managing those expectations and understanding where the customer expects certain service deliveries, and in that sense, how quickly you can manage that expectation and understand what it is that the customer needs, the better the experience will be, whether it's in terms of speed or in terms of responsiveness of certain information. People expect things to happen instantly. We don't expect to wait a couple of days for a support call. We don't expect to wait for deliveries to happen in weeks' times. And in that sense, when you've got a problem with technology, you want an immediate response, and if we can call it that, a hot fix of the problem. So in more recent years, we've had to move to spaces where we can understand very rapidly what it is that the customer needs and how we can assist that customer and how satisfied he can be. So agents in customer experience environments have been put under pressure because support calls come in and they go, and they come in and they go, and recently they've started coming in through various channels. So not only just a phone call, but people are sending emails, they're sending WhatsApps, they're sending Facebook Messenger accounts, Twitter accounts, and you also get these reviews lately. So understanding where your customers are positioned, where you are positioned in the market, and compared to your competitors, being able to analyze those aspects of how you service your customers and how your customers are experiencing, whether it's a sales cycle, a support call, or just understanding the product better, we've had to move into a much more rapid response environment.
And Sammy, do you agree, or how do you feel about how customers' expectations have changed over the years?
Yeah. So just to probably reiterate what Walter has just mentioned, I think there's a technology point that has actually been mentioned, and one of the things is that it is inevitable for people to get more and more sophisticated over time, and technology is really a driving factor in the past many years. Probably 10 is that's when we've actually seen a huge growth in technology. But also, just to be clear, what we also are starting to see is the preference of how customers actually prefer how to do business with people. And it is not about what product you're actually selling, it's what's the experience that you're actually giving. And over time, it's becoming more of a very difficult conversation from a sales perspective, because they don't want to get a product. They actually want to get a service, and a very superior service. So my take on the customer experience changes is one on technology, and also human behavior and how people have actually been changing over time.
Are there higher expectations in terms of customer experience? Long wait times, like Walter has mentioned, is no longer tolerated, because they will move if they have to wait too long to speak to you?
No doubt. My take is actually that the product itself is not even a negotiation. It's not something that we are going to be discussing, is it the right product or not. The product is there. And it is, if it's a business that is actually struggling to first get the product right, then I don't think you've even started the race. Because the first thing that you need to get right is actually the product, and that one is a no-brainer. It's 100%. That needs to be done right through the cycles that it needs to evolve in, and then now you go into the process of making sure that you can actually offer a superior service beyond just the product. So it's no longer a product economy, but it's actually an experience economy that we are actually driving into. And I guess once we get to the point of understanding that aspect of experience, that is the only way we can actually be able to meet the obligations of what the customers actually want.
Thank you for that. A good friend of mine called Asa Raskin, who's an interaction designer, once said that these days the interface is the product, that the customer may not care too much about the product details, but if the interface and the interaction is less than subpar, they will just judge you, they'll judge the product as being subpar, but it may be only just the interface that was problematic. So thank you for that. Businesses today are putting customer top of mind when they're designing new products. How can businesses ensure that they're creating a great customer journey as they navigate day-to-day activities, and sort of like from end-to-end experiences for the customers? How can they innovate and keep customers top of mind? I'll start with Sammy.
Okay, thanks, Juliana. So one of the things that is quite interesting is there are a lot of documentations and theoretical conversations of how to create an excellent customer journey. There's definitely no one cut that fits all, and every business needs to definitely come up with a customer journey utilizing the different touch points within their business to actually say this is the strategy that is actually going to work. So how to utilize and to take advantage of giving superior service is by making sure you understand what services and products that you might be offering and how you can make it better. And the first step is definitely to make sure that you're addressing the right team or market. So with the business processes in place, you can actually say this customer is going to interact with sales, this customer is going to interact with implementation teams or the projects teams, and then it goes to management or support and so on. So it is very important for a business to make sure that they understand those different touch points. Make sure that we have a continuous loop of feedback that is given to the business offering the service, so that we can be able to take action on what is going on. But remember, what the most important thing is also not to always just depend on reactive information. There has to be something on top of it to be able to say there's predictive analytics beyond what you're getting, so that it's not always this is the feedback you're getting. I've seen a lot of developments over the past maybe 10 years, and one of the things is that the first point was people were just sending general surveys. Now we are going to feedback loops, which always feed back into the business continuously based on an action that has actually been undertaken, be it on sales, be it on projects, and so And the last and the new thing that we are definitely looking at is predictive information to be able to move forward. So the different touch points in a business needs to be very clear as to how the feedback is being given and what needs to be actioned against that. And that's how you develop continuously into something great.
So for example, if I'm interacting with Eco Kenya or Hi Guru, what sorts of feedback am I able to give you? Is it a rating? Is it when something is broken? Is it about the quality of my experience? How would it look like for me as a customer of Eco Kenya, either as a business or as an individual?
When we talk about getting feedback, we are trying to make sure that we get feedback from all channels of communication. And that's why we are, as a business, we are definitely trying to embrace the new technologies that are out there. With Hi Guru, the partnership or the integration of our platforms to Hi Guru, what we are trying to do is to make sure that every touch point, we can be able to adjust the system accordingly so that we can either get a rating, if that is what seems fit at that point, or we can actually ask a few questions depending on the client's time. So similar to the way somebody actually downloads an application from your Google platform, you can actually rate that application with just a 5-star. But if you want to proceed further to actually give a comment or leave a comment, then you're at liberty to do so, but it's not a mandatory thing altogether. So I guess you have different options, and those options are quite important to make sure that you put into consideration someone who has time and someone who doesn't have time, because time has actually become one of the fundamental aspects when we are actually generating a client experience, because nobody at this point in time has the luxury of time to spend to try and give you feedback.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I'll turn to Walter. Why should businesses prioritize customer experience? And then if you could also speak to, Sammy has made the point about customers not having much time to interact, about attention, and then how do we navigate the short attention spans that most customers have and the minimized time, but then also why should businesses prioritize customer experience?
Well, I think assuming that the business backs itself, the product will speak for itself, right? So if the business backs itself, the most important thing you can do from there on is understanding your customer, understanding who it is that you're speaking to, and understanding the market that you're speaking to. After that, you can worry about the product. So assuming you're backing your product, you will have, your goal is to find out what it is that the customer wants, how he wants to spend his time, how he wants to interact with your product, and if you're on the right path. So it doesn't help you trying to develop products without understanding that consumer behavior. Now, consumers live high-paced lives, and all of us have moved to a high-paced life. We don't necessarily have time to rate and review. And that's where we have built a foundation in trying to become more responsive, providing a rapid response to customer experience and also a rapid response in feedback. So whether it's through AI and bots trying to just get a quick reaction with an intent button that says, are you happy with the experience? Do you want to provide more feedback? Or just a couple of listed items that the person can go, yes, no, yes, yes, 5-star or 0-star. So time is definitely of essence. People want to live their lives. And if they do experience problems, they want to sort that out as soon as possible. And if they're happy with an experience, they're most likely to give you some feedback. So adding on to some of Sammy's comments then, I think really understanding consumer behavior, understanding your consumer and how he approaches your product, approaches the market, and approaches the competitive nature that we're living in today, you really have very limited time to make that impression. So when you're on a sales cycle, when you're doing a campaign to sell, you want to grab that attention as soon as possible. You want to interact dynamically with your customer, and you want to be able to understand what it is that he wants from your product as soon as possible. The moment a customer has to start thinking for you, you lose his interest, and he'll most likely switch to the next tab and find the next product that's going to work for him.
Thank you so much, Walter. Sammy, what's new? What are the innovations that you're seeing in the industry that have revolutionized customer experience?
You know, I was reading an article on one of the reports in the McKinsey report for 2021, and there's something quite important that they actually picked out, and that is 100% in my opinion also. However, I think there's a tweak to it which would work for Echo and what we can do differently. And so the main feedback is that we've gone beyond what I mentioned earlier, which is feedbacks and feedback loops. But we're now getting into a world where we are actually utilizing technology further to give predictive analysis and analytics to be able to move even further ahead and be able to predict what these customers are actually looking for. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's never just about the what you would want to predict and be able to change as we go along. You can pick a few things from there, but what you do is you also restrict yourself to your the commonalities, so what you actually know about. And one of the examples, and it's quite a good invention, is there's a taxi company in the parts of the world that they actually do, they give you extra stuff, or they give you the basic commodities that you might need, but the driver might never know. So for example, you're in a rush, you're taking a cab, and you need a mint, or you actually need a toothbrush. And that is what they're actually offering beyond what the normal customer. You are ordering a cab, but just by the fact that they are actually putting something extra in consideration, you might never have that predictive analysis from there. Mm-hmm. So it really needs someone to understand their customer, know what extra things that you can actually give, and be able to keep them engaged with you in one way or the other, and make it like a good conversation or a good interaction with them. There's another beer company that has developed a game so that you can be able to play a game and be able to win their products. Mm-hmm. Remember, one of the things I actually mentioned earlier is that it's becoming very difficult to actually have a sales conversation with a customer directly to say, this is what I'm selling. Sometimes it's actually reverse engineer what you want to sell and guide them and lure them into the exact product and the exact service. So for me, I think predictive analytics is really one thing to really focus on. But at the same time, it is also to understand your customer and to learn more about your customer and what you can do differently. I think for me, that's really the win.
Thank you very much. I'll ask Walter, same question. What's new? What have you been seeing in your space around the industry in terms of revolutionizing customer experience? And perhaps a word or two around AI and machine learning and how that is being used to complement other technologies when it comes to customer experience.
So traditionally, we're used to taking call center calls when having conversations with businesses, especially in the online space. You give a call center a call, either you in the market for a product or you're in the market for support. So you give the call center a call and you typically wait 20 minutes to speak to an agent, and by that time you're pretty much fed up and tired. And what we've seen is the move to chat. So chat makes a whole new world available to us in terms of analytics and reporting, and then also taking away some work from the agents. So all of a sudden, agents can have multiple conversations at the same time, as well as having the text in a database, and you can analyze that text. You can analyze agent sentiment or customer sentiment. You can analyze agent responsiveness, agent productivity, and then also how the agent deals with the customer, how the customer deals with the agent, what it is that that person wants. And then the real innovation starts in how do we visualize all of that data. So you can go through various months of conversations, and typically via voice. It's a very expensive process to analyze that data. You need people to sit there, listen to a phone call, listen to what is being said, listen to the tone of voice, how it's being brought across the room from the two phone calls, and then it has to be put into text, and then it can be understood. And with recent innovation in terms of how chat has started taking over these sales campaigns and support campaigns, it's a lot easier for us to understand where the pain points are, where the touch points are in our business, and where we might be able to improve or develop in those certain senses. So can we service our customer better? Can we improve our product in a certain way? And being able, through AI and machine learning, we can understand what it is that the customer wants, and we don't need to take this exuberant amount of time to go through calls to understand what the phone call is all about, and then to hopefully get the right intent behind it. So we generally call it agent disposition, where agents take certain calls and they mark it as this was a call relating to sales, or relating to support, or relating to a product inquiry. And you often find that agents have so many calls coming in and in and in that they're just ticking the first box that comes their way. And through modern reporting and analytics, the agent doesn't necessarily need to tag those conversations as accurately. We can understand what it is that's required without having to expect an agent to sit and listen to a call and then make a note somewhere, and after his day's work he now has to go input all of his calls, maybe 500 calls in a day. He has to go through that and pretty much decide what it is that they were all about. So I think it's innovation wise, we can become a lot more accurate in understanding those conversations and understanding those requirements and customer expectations.
Just to follow up on that, what gives you most optimism about the future of customer experience, and how do you see that evolving? Is there something that keeps you excited about? What do you see in the horizon of customer experience?
Competition is rising. We've never had as much competition in any market as we have now. No market seems unsaturated. Everywhere you look, there's 10 other people doing exactly the same thing. So in that case, customer experience becomes more and more important, and the better you can execute customer experience, the more likely you are to retain that customer and have a lower churn rate at that. So I think customer experience generally comes down to the better your customer experience, the better your retention.
Sammy, what do you see in the horizon when it comes to the future of customer experience, and more importantly, what could stop it?
Let me start with the last question. What could stop it? If we over-rely extremely 100% or 110% on robotics or technology, I think we might leave some data to fall through the cracks. So it's important for us to actually be able to give technology what is due for technology to analyze and get back to us, and we make the final decision as to what really needs to change, right? And for me, that is what needs to find a balance as we take this journey. The future of customer experience for me is being able to give the customer a personalized experience rather than to create a process that is defined through a specific product or a company. So we might all be taking the same services from a specific company, but at the same time, if that company can adjust or relate to me as an individual, I think that is the only way that we can actually make it work for everybody. It's not a one cut fits all, so it has to be really done in a smart way so that we can utilize the opportunities to make sure that every customer has the best experience they are actually expecting.
Owing to the fragmented nature of communications channels, there are so many various ways that people communicate with companies. How do you reconcile this with the need to provide consistent and seamless customer experiences? We'll go over to Walter to share his experience.
So customers all have their own preference. People use WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook, Google, and they have that preference because they've got their community on that channel. So it's become increasingly important for businesses to be able to service those channels equally across the board and not let some of them fall through the cracks. So if we start thinking in feedback, Google and Facebook have made it together with many other platforms that offer ratings and offer customer feedback. You can easily fall between the cracks. You can miss one or two, and it can take you a week or two to get back to someone. And let's say someone has a bad experience at your restaurant, and they go onto Google and they write a bad review. And as a restaurant owner, unbeknownst to you, there's this bad review, and it might be something you can fix. You don't have this channel, you don't see it, you don't know what's going on. So what we've done is we've created a channel aggregator. So we aggregate all of these channels into a single unified dashboard so that agents can see all of the communication coming in from all of the channels in real time on the same screen. So it doesn't matter from which channel the communication comes from. You can see and you can analyze where it came from, but you can respond to it immediately without having to flip between these channels and possibly forget about checking up on one or two of the others. So giving a customer that satisfaction, that comfort that he can go onto his desired channel and he can communicate with you. He can raise his concerns or he can raise his praise. He can really give you what his experience was, and you can respond to that without giving that delayed response. So our take on that was, how quickly can we respond to a customer? How quickly can we get back to him, either to say thank you or either to say, how can we help you? How can we improve this experience? And most of the time, the quicker you can get back to someone, the more likely you are to rectify that issue. So if service was bad and you can rectify it, that person can change that review, he can change that sentiment. And as a business, you can run a tighter ship.
Sammy, how do you reconcile the need to provide consistent, seamless experiences, yet there are so many channels for communications with various types of customers, with their very many different preferences, particularly when you have a mix of business customers and direct individual customers? How do you do that?
So the legacy, and as Walter has mentioned, the legacy points or channels of communication have actually been telephone call and also email communication. As time goes by, we've actually started realizing that people are actually going less on calls and starting getting more on WhatsApp and for communication. And it's actually an interesting thing, because if you look at the points as to where somebody is actually on call holding for someone to actually respond back, I think at this point in time, because of text messaging, you can actually send a message through WhatsApp and be able to, over time, get that response back to the customer. So with the partnership of Hi Guru, and what we are actually doing is we definitely are creating an omni-channel capability, just as Walter has actually mentioned. We are bringing all these channels in different platforms within the social media space and putting it on one view for the agent to be able to see what exactly is going on. we can be able to even further integrate and be able to know that this is the same person who was talking to us on WhatsApp, but at the same time, it's the same person who was talking to us on Facebook. So you can actually create that synchronization to actually know this is the same customer and we can do this thing differently. As rightfully indicated, the ratings of what we see through our customers are something that we definitely need to change. What the market has stipulated is the moment you see a 1-star or a 2-star for a specific customer or a specific company, it is more a driver to actually determine if you're taking the product or not. And this is the legacy replacement of having a grumpy cashier or having, you know, the wrong titles or the wrong prices on a supermarket or a retail store. And for me, I think it's quite important that we take our learnings, because what we are building, the experience journey we are actually formulating as a business, as Eco, is something very futuristic. We are building the platform for the next generation, because what we are trying to push is not just something that works for now, but enticing the future generation that is coming up, which is very tech savvy, to be able to be accommodated into our business and our experience.
Do you feel that it helps you to differentiate yourselves, when compared to your competitors?
It is inevitably a total differentiator, because at this point in time, if you talk to different providers, they might have the different channels of communication, but the back-end processes or the back-end workflow or procedures have not been built well to accommodate a seamless journey for the consumer. So what we're trying to make sure is that there is a correlation on all these channels. It doesn't matter where you're actually coming from, and the experience should actually be the same. The turnaround, the SLAs, the service levels agreements that we actually are giving, it doesn't matter which channel you're actually utilizing. We will offer the same level of experience that you deserve.
I have something else to add to Sammy's comment, and that is delivering a product has a result in 2 ways. Your customer can be happy, and you generally don't receive that praise. So when a customer is happy, he's happy, and you accept that he's gone on with his life. So more often than not, on public services and where people actually engage with the business after the product has been delivered, it's generally a problem. So we see that in these social spheres and in this public eye, people will easily go and raise a concern because it's taken time out of their day and it's inconvenienced them. Where they do expect the product to work and they buy the product and it works, they accept it as that is how it should be. So you might have 100 customers and 3 of them are unhappy. You will hear from all 3 of them. The other 96 or 97 of them, you might not hear again. You might not hear from them ever again. So, you know, that sentiment is really trying to convert that 96, 97% into 100%. And the customers do make it easier for us. So in traditional senses, people would go by word of mouth and say, yo, I had a bad experience here, I had a bad experience there. Now they take 5 seconds, they write a bad review, or they post it on a public channel, and it's there for the whole world to see. So word of mouth travels extremely far. You can make a post and all of a sudden it reaches 1,000 people within minutes. So being responsive on those type of calls within every channel, I think it's essential for every business to move in that direction.
As a business, if I'm interested in getting the competitive advantage that you clearly have in providing a great customer experience, how would I go about it? Sammy?
There's definitely a loophole that we've actually confirmed. in very many businesses, trying to bring an interconnection or relation between the different channels. So what we are actually moving ahead to do is to actually be able to give that offering and give that benefit and advantage to our customers. So what we are saying is that we are definitely ourselves utilizing that capability of having the omni-channel and having one platform, and we are actually telling our customers and anybody else who's actually interested to partner with us to be able to give them a better experience. I think we are ready to have that conversation, and we are ready to deploy that for them.
And how do businesses like mine contact you and get to partner with you?
We have definitely different channels, and with regards to Hi Guru and the partnership that we actually have, you can actually go to sales@ecokenya.co.ke. Okay, I think that's, and even irrespective of whatever channel that you want to reach us on, you can go to Skype account, which is Eco Kenya, as simple as that. And also you can reach us on telephony or even Facebook.
And there you have it. Thank you very much for joining us on All Things Tech and All Things Business with Eco Kenya.